to another inspiration from Ken Park at Fallingbrook Heights Baptist Church at the Center. Here's Ken.
There was once a very wealthy woman, billionaire. She owned a large conglomerate around the world, and one day she looked at her finances and the information she had, and she realized that her chief executive officer wasn't performing the way that she would want him to. He was wasting money. He was being inefficient. So she decided that she'd had enough. And she called him in and said, "That's it. We're asking a transition team to come in. You're finished. We're transitioning you. I want your resignation effective this month." And then she left. This man, CEO by the name of Mr. Glick, Mr. Glick didn't know what to do. He thought to himself and realized that he had no other job. He didn't have any prospects. He didn't know what else he would do. And this came as a surprise to him. So he called his wife, and as he thought about it and talked with her, he said to her, "I know what I'll do. I'll make some calls to make sure that I'm looked after all this is done." Now, I want to pause in the story there to ask a couple questions about what you would do in this situation. Because this was a parable that Jesus told, and it's one of my favorite parables. But this CEO, Mr. Glick, has a choice. So before I tell you the rest of the story, before I dig into what Jesus' purposes and message for this parable was, let's pause for a moment and see if you would be able to help out Mr. Glick to make some decisions that he has. Mr. Glick, you see, just like the rest of us, lives with 5 spheres in his daily reality. The 5 spheres of who he is are his body, the physical realm; his mind, the intellectual realm; his psyche, the emotional realm; his relationships, the social realm; and his spirit, the spiritual realm, the soul. In this life that we live, we have these 5 areas, these 5 sectors, these 5 spheres in which we operate. And the truth is, we can trade between them. If you want a quick example, just think of when you did post-secondary education. You were trading money, physical resource, into your mind, a intellectual resource, to ultimately put yourself to work and to receive a physical return. So think about it, and let me ask you a couple questions. What should Mr. Glick do? He's going to lose his role, his job as CEO. Should he lock all the doors in the skyrise and connect with other executives and arrange a hostile takeover of the corporation, of this billionaire's wealth? Should he look at a physical response? Should he study all the patents? Should he look at the intellectual property of the conglomerate and start over again with his own brain trust? Should he weep and moan and beg and cry to the owner and manipulate his way back into the job, prey upon the feelings that she has, and seek to negotiate with goodwill? Should he go to church and take all his wealth and time and talent and offer it totally to God for salvation? Should he call the billionaire's friends, family, CFO, CIO, CMO, COO, and demand to keep his job? In other words, should he predominantly use his physical, his intellectual, his emotional, his relational, or his spiritual sphere to pursue what's next for him? And let me go one step further. What's the predominant sphere in which you're operating at it today? Which one's leading you in your life today? What's the most important sphere for you? Your body? The sphere of the mind? The sphere of the psyche? The sphere of the relationships? The sphere of your soul? As you think about that, let me tell you the rest of the story. Here's what Mr. Glick did. He said, I know what I'm going to do so that I will be able to keep my job. I don't know what to do once I lose my job here. I'll land another opportunity. So he set up a Zoom chat with the largest vendor and partner and subsidiary of this conglomerate. And he met with the board and he reviewed accounts. And he said to the very first one that he was meeting with, what is our balance of payments between you and your corporation? The partner responded, well, we owe $300 million, payable over 10 years. So the CEO said, well, today's the day to negotiate. How about we pay you back $150 million over 20 years? Let's sign the deal today. And then he asked a vendor, what's our outstanding contract with you? Well, said the vendor, 250 people, over 30 contracts for $10 million over 4 years. Okay, said the CEO. The board's decided we would like to negotiate you for 10 years, 500 people, $15 million a year. To the third, the owner of the subsidiary, he said, what do we owe you? The man said, well, we have a line of credit currently for $5 million. The CEO said, well, we'll take on one for $10 million. With all these calls and the board approvals and the lawyers finalizing these 3 deals, the man renegotiated these contracts. When the billionaire found out, she smiled. She called the CEO in and said to him, wow, you've really caused quite a stir. If only you had been this shrewd, this active when you were at the helm. Then this would all be different. I will honor the deals you've made. This is one of my favorite parables. It's difficult to read within the predominant theology of our day when we think about who Jesus is, but I believe this is one that's really quite understandable in our day, in our era, especially in the corporate financial setting that we live in. And parables always have a key. This one Jesus provided after he told the parable. But before we get there, let me just say this. God in this parable is the billionaire. Life is his business. It's what he does. And goodness and worship and justice and mercy are the product of the life that he gives to us. We're the workers. And others who owe us and who owe God are vendors, partners, creditors. Here's the point. Life is like a market, like a transfer that trades the physical and the intellectual and the emotional and social and the spiritual wealth. God has a hierarchy, a purpose, a plan for blessing each one of these spheres in our life. And the truth is we all fail. We all fall. We all misuse the wealth of our lives. Jesus paid the price to redeem your soul. And when we accept what he's given to us, we owe it all to him. In the book of Matthew, Jesus speaks about this and reminds us of the great opportunity we have. Matthew 11, it says this, Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. You see, Jesus paid the price for us to be able to live our lives. The last point Jesus is making is this. Life's greatest opportunity is yours, and that is to trade wisely. For you and I indeed are trading on someone else's account. We're trading on God's account. Jesus sent out his disciples. It's recorded in Matthew 10, and it says this. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick. Raise the dead. Cleanse those who have leprosy. Drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore be as shrewd as snakes and innocent as doves. Be on your guard. The kingdom of heaven has been forcefully advancing, and forceful men take a hold of it. You see, what Jesus was saying is that life is not always easy. Life has its challenges, but we're called upon to, in our lives, trade wisely. At the end of telling this parable, Jesus delivers the point home. He says this: use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourself, so that when it is gone, you'll be welcomed into heaven by friends, by people you've invested in. Trade wisely. May God bless you today.
Thanks for listening to this inspiration from Ken Park. For more information, visit our website, churchatthecenter.com. God bless.